in example 2, we need to write a system of inequalities that represents the graph shown. So I'm giving you a graph here, and we need to write the system. All right, so first off, I'm just going to take each of these inequalities and graph them or write an equation to represent it. All right, so for this dashed one, I got y, some inequality symbol, some slope, and some b value. Okay, so we just got to fill this in. So the b value is -1. Okay, and then the slope, you'll see another point right here. I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, to the right 1, 2, 3. So I go up 3 over 3, which simplifies to 1. All right, so this simplifies to 1. And then notice we shade below this inequality. All right, so what is that going to be? It's going to be less than, because it's dashed. So I don't have equality and I shade below, so it's going to be less than. All right, so that is the first inequality. Now we got to represent the second. So let me erase some of this stuff here. For the second inequality, same idea. So y is some inequality, some slope, and some b value. All right, it starts at 2, so my b value is 2. Here's another point on the line, and I'm going to go down 2 to the right 1, 2, 3. Down 2 to the right 3. So my slope is -2/3. All right, and for this inequality, we shade above, and it's a solid line. So that's going to be y is greater than or equal to -2/3 x plus 2. So my system of inequalities is y is less than x minus 1, and y is greater than or equal to -2/3 x plus 2. There is the system of inequalities for this graph. Okay? And you can always check your answer now by graphing that. Take a coordinate plane, graph those, and make sure it matches the picture that was given. All right? Last example is going to just be an application problem. So in example 3, you can work at most 40 hours next week. In order to pay the holiday gifts, you have to make at least $275. Your babysitting job pays $10.50 per hour, and your job at Best Buy pays $6.75 per hour. Okay? Write a system of linear inequalities. Let X represent the number of hours babysitting, and Y represent the number of hours at Best Buy. All right? So we wrote linear equations. Okay? Systems of linear equations. Same process here. It's just an inequality. So we got to be looking for those keywords of less than or at least, something like that, to signify what type of inequality symbol we're going to use. Okay? So we're given that you can work at most 40 hours next week. Okay? And we've got this key phrase here, at most. So I'm going to write an equation that just deals with hours. Well, I can work X amount of hours babysitting and Y amount of hours at Best Buy. So if I take the hours at babysitting and the hours at Best Buy and I add them together, that's going to have a restriction of at most 40 hours. Okay, so X plus Y, some inequality symbol, and then 40. Okay, so what does this at most mean? Okay, at most means you can't do anything bigger than 40. You can do 40, but you can't do an hour more than 40. So X plus Y is less than or equal to 40. Okay? So X plus Y is less than or equal to 40. You can work up to 40 hours next week. All right? The next equation, the next inequality that I'm going to write is going to deal with the money. Because we're told you have to make make at least $275. Okay? So your babysitting job is $10.50 per hour. So that's going to be $10.50 times X. And Best Buy pays $6.75 per hour. So it's going to be $6.75 times Y. If I add those two amounts together, it's going to be some inequality symbol, and it's going to be 275 because that represents the total. Now, we have to make at least $275. So that's the low limit of what we can make. All right? The lowest we can make is 275, but really we want to make more than 275. But the lowest we're willing to make is 275. What's that inequality symbol going to look like? Well, I take the amount that I make babysitting, I add the amount that I make at Best Buy, and that has to be greater than or equal to 275. Okay? So there is our system of linear inequalities. Let's see which of these options satisfy our constraints. What is a solution to this? Okay, let's use algebra. Hours babysitting and hours at Best Buy. So, if I do 10 hours babysitting, 20 hours at Best Buy, that's 30 hours total. 30 is less than or equal to 40. So yes, it works for constraint number 1. What about with the money? All right, well, 10.5 times 10, that's 105. Plus 20 times 6.75, that's 135. All right, 105 plus 135 is 240. Is 240 greater than or equal to 275? No. Okay, so since it didn't satisfy both, it is not a solution to our system. Alrighty? What about 30 and 15? Well, 30 hours babysitting and 15 hours at Best Buy, that's 45 hours total, which is not less than or equal to 40. So since it doesn't fulfill our first constraint, we know this is not a system. Or we know that this is not a solution to our system. All right, what about our second constraint? 10.5 times 30 plus 6.75 times 15. That's 416.25, which is bigger than or equal to 275. So it does work. It does work with the second constraint, but since it doesn't work for both, it's done. It does not work for the entire system. Okay? Last one, 10 hours babysitting, 28 hours at Best Buy. So that's a total of 38 hours working. That is less than or equal to 40. So yes, it does work for the first constraint. What about for the second? 10.5 times 10 plus 6.75 times 28. That's going to give me $294, which is bigger than or equal to 275. So yes, it works for the second constraint as well. So since it works for both, it is a solution to the overall system. It would be in that overlapping region. Okay? So, writing systems of linear inequalities works the exact same way as writing systems of equations. All right? The new thing that you got to be looking for is instead of an equal sign, what inequality symbol is going to be there. So look for those keywords of less than, or at most, or at least, something along those lines. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions. Make sure to do those practice problems. Have a good one.